Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle one of the trickiest but most important verbs in Spanish, haber. Seriously, getting this one right is a total game changer for sounding more natural. So let's just dive right in. So what's the big deal with haber? Why does it trip everyone up? Well, think about it. In English, we've got different tools for different jobs, right? We use to have for one thing, and then the phrase there is or there are for something else entirely. Spanish is just way more efficient. It packs all of that meaning into one powerful, kind of shape-shifting verb.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at how it means there is or there are. Then we'll jump into the past tense, the whole via versus ubo thing. After that, we'll see how it acts as a helper verb. And of course, we're going to tackle the big one, haber versus tener. We'll wrap it all up with a golden rule that'll save you a ton of headaches.
All right, so the first thing you've got to get your head around is that haber is like a Swiss Army knife. It's not just one tool, it's got a bunch of different functions. 1 minute it's telling you there is a problem, and the next it's helping you say, I have spoken. So our mission today is to figure out which little tool to pull out and when.
Okay, let's start with its most common job, probably the first one you'll ever use, talking about there is or there are.
And this is where Spanish is just beautifully simple. Seriously, for both there is and there are, you only need one little word, hi. That's it. It's what we call an impersonal form, which is just a fancy way of saying it doesn't care if you're talking about one thing or a million things. It never changes. Check this out. In English, we have to switch our verb from is to are, right? There is a book, but there are 5 books. In Spanish, nope. It's hay un libro and hay cinco libros. See that? I just stays the same. Honestly, this is such a great shortcut once it clicks.
All right, you ready for a little pop quiz? How would you fill in the blank here? You want to ask, how many students are there in the class? What do you think? Yep, you got it. It's hey. ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase?
Okay, round 2. How would you say there is a problem with my car? That's right, it's hey again. Hey en problema con mi coche. See how easy that is? And one more, for good measure. There is a lot of food at the party. The answer is, you guessed it, hay mucha comida en la fiesta. So the big takeaway here is singular, plural, doesn't matter. It's always I. All right, so we've got the present tense down. But what about the past? Well, this is where things get a little more interesting. To say there was or there were, Spanish actually gives us 2 different options, había and hubo.
So how in the world do you tell them apart? Here's the key. Think of había like you're setting the scene in a movie. You're painting the background, describing what was going on. There were a lot of people at the party. It's descriptive. But hubo, that's the main event. It's like a sudden camera flash. It captures a specific, completed action. Boom! There was an accident yesterday. It happened, and it's over.
Okay, everybody with me? Good. Let's totally switch gears now. We're going to look at the other big job that haber has, its role as a helper verb. So in this mode, haber isn't the main star. It's the best supporting actor. It's the little word that helps you form sentences like, I have done something, or we have seen that movie. It teams up with another verb to talk about a completed action that's connected to the present. And here's how you build it. Now, pay attention, because unlike our simple friend hey, this version of haber does change depending on who's talking. So you've got he, has, ha, hemos, on. All you do is pick the right one for your person and then tack on the main action, like comido, which means eaten. So, I have eaten becomes yo he comido. Okay, and now for the main event, the final showdown, haber versus tener. This right here is probably the #1 cause of headaches for Spanish learners. I mean, they both can mean have, so how do you ever know which one to pick? Don't worry, the rule is actually way simpler than you think. It all boils down to one simple question. Are you talking about owning something, possession? If the answer is yes, you use tener. Tengo un coche means I have a car. I own it.
For pretty much everything else we've talked about today, saying there is something with hay or using it as a helper like in he comido, that's haber's job. So just think. Tener for possession, haber for everything else.
All right, we're almost at the finish line, and I want to leave you with one golden rule. If you can lock this one thing down, I promise your Spanish will sound so much better, and you'll avoid a super common mistake. I mean, even some native speakers mess this up sometimes. Ready? Here it is. When you're using haber in the past to say there was or there were, it is always singular. Always. Even if you're talking about a million things, it's still impersonal, right? So it's so tempting to say había muchos problemas, because problemas is plural, right? But that's wrong. The correct way is always había muchos problemas. It feels a little weird, I know, but trust me, getting this right is a huge step.
And there you have it. That's haber in a nutshell. It really is a workhorse, isn't it? But once you break it down into its different jobs, you've got I for existence, había and hubo for the past, and then its helper role, it's so much more manageable. So my question for you is, which part are you going to practice first? Maybe you'll just focus on using I correctly, or maybe you'll try to nail down the difference between había and hubo. Whatever you choose, just pick one thing and start there. You've got this. Happy learning.